call.
Our next caller is Aaron, and he's got a question about climate change and renewable energy. Aaron, you are on with the congressman.
Well, this is my first time doing one of these. I'm a high school student down in Benton, Illinois.
Okay.
And I was somewhat concerned about previous comments that you made about climate change. One of them being that you didn't believe in climate change. I wanted to ask you.
Okay.
And I wanted to ask, do you now believe in human-caused climate change, first of all?
I believe that the climate has to be dealt with, and I believe that we need to be the best stewards of the climate that we possibly can. Let me tell you that I have an all-in policy. I do not believe we should get rid of fossil fuels until we're ready and up and going with the solar, wind, and any other fuel that's a renewable fuel, including ethanol, by the way, that we would work on. But science has to catch up, and it has to catch up before all of a sudden we pull the rug out from underneath our nation, specifically with the people, because where you're living here in southern Illinois, the concerns of walking away from burning coal cleanly, and you know, because if you don't, other nations are going to burn it, and they don't have the technology we have. I believe in solar panels. I have them on my house. But also, I believe in wind. That being said, if you want to see the problems that exist in the existing grid, just watch the news on what's happening in Texas right now. You have an overabundance of feeding into the grid the solar panels and the wind. Now, let me explain that. I would love to do that every day, use solar and wind.
The Access Live event operator has been notified that you wish to ask a question.
Wind doesn't blow. And when that occurs, what happens is you get a lull in the grid. And now you have people freezing to death in Texas. You have people that are suffering in Texas because why? They became too dependent. The same thing can happen to our other states. I am all for new energy, and I hope you are too. But I also know you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You can't force us into a situation dealing with two products that are not proven in certain conditions, and we have to have the backup. And unfortunately, sometimes the backup has to keep generating so that it doesn't go away while you're coming up to those points where you may need it. So natural gas, coal, yes, I will still support them. And let me also say this. I support solar. I support wind. I support hydro energy. I support each energy that's out there. And just so you know, I spent over 20 years working on those committees in the state of Illinois, and I have a tremendous background from that experience, and I look forward to continuing to serve the needs of southern Illinois to make sure that when they reach over to throw that switch, the power stays on. And when you turn that heater on, when you have snow like we have right now, that it heats your house and that your family's safe. But thank you.
Yeah, and then before we get to our next caller, I just wanted to remind folks that if you want to ask a question, press *3 on your phone, and if you want to receive the newsletter, press *0. Our next caller is Carol, who has a question about impeachment. Carol, you are on with the congressman.
Great, thank you. First, I'd like to clear up one thing you said about Texas. This is primarily done with natural gas, not with wind and solar. They try to use wind and solar, but unfortunately, the Republicans who run Texas have deregulated the industries that are supposed to control that, and that's what caused that problem. But what my question is that now we have found out that all of you congressional Republicans have known since January 6th about the phone call that Kevin McCarthy had with Trump, where Trump refused to send any kind of help during the insurrection that he is primarily responsible for. Why did you, knowing full well what he did, why did you not vote to impeach him?
But I'm glad you asked the question. Now get ready for the answer. Well, first off, let me tell you, you need to talk to the state legislators in Texas to give your answer to your your statement, because the statement wasn't true. I deal with state legislators and federal legislators from Texas all the time, and I know what's going on there. Now, let me tell you that the right to free speech is a peaceful protest. I agree with. That's what we have in our First Amendment. But what we saw on the 6th of January was not peaceful. It was unacceptable, because any time you start doing damage to property, or you start physically raising your hand towards somebody, that is not in your First Amendment rights. You know, the Capitol Police did a great job of trying to help, and we are going to do an investigation. Matter of fact, the Speaker is calling for an investigation. Now, let me tell you something that you didn't mention. It wasn't that Trump stopped the National Guard. I think we have some real questions that need to be answered on what really went down and how soon and how early that we knew that leadership in the House on the Democrat side knew that there was a possibility of some real problems, and that when they should have asked, and they were asked, do we want to send in the National Guard? That's why we need the investigation into this. Now, let's look at the impeachment process. One, even constitutional scholars question how it is that you could impeach a president that has already left office and now a private citizen. Second, the process, and believe me, I've been in a real impeachment process where bipartisan work was done. I did that in the state of Illinois with Rod Blagojevich. So you don't need to tell me how impeachment works. I know how impeachment works. This was nothing more than a political show that should have been stopped, because at a time when this country needs to heal, it should have not went down this path. Now, let me explain this to you, because it's vitally important I do. From my district is a gal that actually I visited with 2 weeks ago, early one morning, because she was one of the frontline officers when this all started. Now, let me tell you this. The impeachment process said that he incited a riot. He incited a riot. When I met with this young lady who was originally from Redbud, now she is an officer out there. She said that there were elderly people in the front. They were being pushed during that time, and they had a scared look on their face. And all of a sudden, about 4 rows back, people started dropping backpacks and pulling out weapons, some spray that they didn't know what was in it. They pulled out some flash grenades and some other things. Now, all this is under investigation. I'm just telling you what I was told with this investigation. But it was 4 rows back, and the president was still giving his speech at the White House when this started. So I don't believe that it was incited. Now, the question is, do I think that the president should have called, said things, calmed down? He did in time. I wish he would have done it sooner. I know Kevin McCarthy wished he'd have done it sooner. But let me tell you that it is always easy for you to sit out and be a Monday morning quarterback on the issues that we faced. Now, let me tell you, I hope that there's a full investigation. I'm calling for a full investigation. Rodney Davis and his committee members signed a letter asking the Speaker to do that. So this will really come out what really happened, and so that we know, so it will never happen again. And by no means, and let me explain this again to every caller on the line, by no means do I think what happened was right in any way, shape, or form. I believe in my law enforcement. I believe in our National Guard. And I believe in our freedom of speech if it doesn't cross the lines that I just mentioned a while ago. And I'm so thank you for making that question and having that question, because I'm glad I get the opportunity to answer to everyone on this call. Now, the frustration that we're feeling, we can continue to go down this path. Have impeachments, we can remove somebody who's out of office, or we can start healing. And I hope we start healing. Some of the people on each side don't really want to heal. They just want to keep fighting. I pray that we get through this as a nation. We need to. And an impeachment of a person that is no longer in office is just a dog and pony show. Thank you.